Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
You are listening to the Brilliance Business Show. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler. Conversations with leading experts in business. And today I have the most incredible guest, Barbara Davis. Barbara is founder of Barbara's School of Motoring, and our topic today is freedom through driving. Barbara, welcome to the Brilliance Business Show.
Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to a conversation with you today. Before I get started, I just need to make a legal disclaimer that Barbara is not offering legal advice or legal assistance. So let's get started with the show. Barbara, can you share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and your business?
Well, yes, I can, certainly. I'm the founder of my School of Motoring. I founded it about 20 years ago when I had been working in a large supermarket previous and wasn't enjoying it. And so I knew I had to change something, but it was making me ill working from stress and so on. And when I lost my voice and came down with flu one February after a fortnight of nights, I knew something had to change because this wasn't getting any better. I was getting more and more stressed. And it took 3 months to decide what to do. And then I found that an advert, and I became I became a driving instructor, doing something which helped other people that I found made a difference. It's something which I love to do. And so that's what I do. I've also have a book about what it's like to be a driving instructor, which I put out to give out to people who want to become driving instructors. And that's where my focus is now, 20 years later, having taught many, many people to drive and made a difference in their life and given them their freedom, if you like, because this is what it's all about today. I am changing tack and wanting to take on and train other driving instructors to give them freedom through teaching driving. So, that's where I'm at the moment.
Well, Barbara, it's really nice to hear your story, that you went through those challenges, you went through those hardships, and then you found something that would give you freedom. But now you have the gift of giving that freedom to others. A quick question, actually, Barbara. How can people get a copy of your book?
Well, if they'd really like to get a copy of my book, then they can contact me. I can send them a copy of the book. But really the book is for people who want to become driving instructors. That's what it's specifically related about. To give you the ins and outs, the good, the bad, all, what's and all about what it's like really working as the driving instructor. It gives you pros and cons about whether you want to go with a major driving school or with some smaller person who's or instructor who's got a little school, maybe just themselves. Because I've been a one-woman band for 21 years. And although you might work with another driving school, you're still self-employed on the most part. Well, and what it's like to be self-employed is the thing. So people can get in contact with me via my email if they wish, and I can certainly send them a book if they'd like to read that. But it is generally for somebody who wants to become a driving instructor and just to give them some balanced view of what they're wanting to do.
Well, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that would like to be a driving instructor as their career choice. So we will give out your contact details at the end of the show so that people can connect with you if they would like to get their hands on a copy of your amazing book. Now, who are your clients, Barbara? What clients do you normally serve? What do your customers look like?
Well, they're usually often teenagers, but not solely. Basically people who want to learn to drive in order to give them a certain amount of freedom to be able to go and get another job. Maybe they need to travel to that job, but they can't drive to it yet, and they don't want to use public transport or rely on other people to take them here and there. They can be 17-year-olds in school, college, apprenticeships, whatever, right through to university students or post-university, postgraduates, again, finding they need to drive to get to work, but haven't taken the opportunity before that. All the way through to, 30s, 40s. I mean, my oldest student, my very first student, was a 68-year-old lady. And she needed to drive in order to be able to take her husband, who wasn't very well, around to hospital appointments. And what if he was stuck in hospital or somewhere and she couldn't get anywhere? So she needed to be able to drive to be able to transport him and help him so that he didn't have to do all the driving. And she was my very, very, very first student, the very first lesson I ever did. As soon as I was able to start work as a driving instructor, I was given them by the driving school that I was working with, and told they were partly trained. But she took a while to get to grips with it, about 18 months, 2 years to finally pass her test. And it's generally true that the older you are, the longer it takes.
I was going to actually touch on that, Barbara. I started my driving lessons when I was 16, and actually looking back, I'm so glad I failed, because I don't think I was mature enough when I was first starting. I tried again when I was 18, I failed again, and yes. I wasn't mature enough, and I waited till I was 25 and I passed so easily that time. I was more mature. I was ready to learn. I felt more confident. I was ready for that freedom, what you was mentioning. But it is true that they say every year you get older, you need an extra lesson. I think that's what they told me anyway. Now, Barbara, I'm interested. What was the ha-ha moment that led to the launch of your business? Was it what you mentioned earlier, those stresses, and then you wanted the freedom?
Well, yes, I wanted the freedom. I had been working for a large supermarket. Initially, when the children were small, I went on to work with this supermarket, and I'd quickly become a supervisor on the checkouts. And after we'd been working with that like that for about 6 months to a year, they suddenly decided to do a big restructure and say, we're not going to have supervisors anymore. We're going to take your pay away and put you back down as a normal checkout operator. And now, as luck would have it, I became the trainer for other new checkout operators coming into the store. But down the line, having been working as a trainer, with certain amount of leeway to come and go, rather than just sitting on the checkouts all the time, which is not the most interesting thing in the world, then I'd been working like as a trainer for a while, and I felt I needed something a little bit more. And it turned out to be the biggest mistake of my life. But I became a customer service manager with the store, with the supermarket, and but I moved store to do it. So I spent 2 years working as a customer service manager at one of their different stores, but it was also 40 minutes away from home, driving, and also, we were talking 10-hour shifts here, from working from part-time to 10-hour shifts. That's a long time, and most weekends. So it wasn't a regular, it was a regular job, but it was long hours away from home. My sort of just turning teens children were not really seeing anything of me, and I wasn't seeing anything of them at all, and wasn't able to do a lot of the things with them. And at the end of the day, the job didn't turn out to be what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be more of a teaching role, somewhere where I could help other people a lot more, and it wasn't that. And I felt that at the end of the day, I was becoming more and more stressed. I wasn't being supported by the upper management. I was just being, they were just basically being non-supportive, to the point of felt I had to do something else. But what? I didn't know. So after doing 2 weeks of nights, coming off nights, which was fair enough, but coming away from nights is more difficult than going into it. And I was at a low level anyway, from suffering from stress, as I know now, that I immediately came down with flu and laryngitis, losing my voice at the same time. Now, I never suffered from flu. I'd never had flu in my life. Never had it since. So that had to tell me something. And I knew I had to change. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what at that point. And although I got over the flu and the laryngitis, my voice didn't come back. And 3 months later, my voice still hadn't come back. I was still looking for something to do when I saw a little ad in the local paper to come and be a driving instructor and train with this big driving school. And I thought, well, I know how to teach because I trained as a teacher way back. I love driving, and I'm interested in road safety, having done an advanced driving test some years previous. So I went for the interview, and the moment I made the decision to change direction and become that driving instructor, to do the training, the moment I made that decision, my voice came back. It was that instant. It was weird.
It's amazing what stress can do to the body, and no one should have to go through stresses like this from working. I'm so glad that you found your passion, Barbara, and you are getting to help others with their freedom, and no one should have to go through that stress that has caused your body to make your voice completely disappear. Let's move up a little bit from this. I would like to know, Barbara, what really motivates you to jump out of bed every single morning?
Well, I think now, particularly, I've come to learn exactly what it is that I am destined to do. It's my life purpose. Isn't necessarily to be a teacher or a driving instructor per se, because I've taught many things. I've taught children to swim. I've taught skiing. I've taught fabric painting, arts, crafts, all sorts of things. But what really drives me if you'll pardon the pun, to get out of bed is making a difference to people. Making a difference so that people can be free, giving them their freedom. And I have learnt in the last 5 months through the lockdown, had a conversation with someone sort of to find out what my life purpose really was. And it is, and what gets me up is that I can make a difference to people, positive difference, and give them, in terms of a driving instructor, freedom. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to have to be freedom to, through learning to drive. It could be freedom by me teaching somebody to become self-employed as a driving instructor, or in any other avenue of their life. If they're in a job that they're not happy with, then I can help them become free and to make a difference to them by becoming self-employed. So I can help people, whoever it might be. Yes, I can certainly help them become driving instructors and develop their freedom in that way, and get them to help to give other people freedom. But there's so many different types of freedom. I dare say what you would consider as freedom is not necessarily what I would consider freedom, and it depends what stage of your life you're at. If you're working in a 9-to-5 job, you might consider that that's fine, you thoroughly enjoy it, and that's okay, and you feel free by doing what you're doing. But my idea of freedom is to be able to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, with whom I wish to do it.
And it's quite life-changing, Barbara, actually passing your test and getting that freedom. It is really a life-changing moment, and especially working with youngsters, working with slightly older clients. You've got a real mixture of people to chat with, get to know over the time of working with them, and it is a really life-changing moment that you are giving to people. What would you say sets your business apart, and what unique need are you filling for your customers?
Well, in terms of unique need of my customers, their initial need and initial reason for coming to me, probably because I'm a female driving instructor, and there's a lot of people who do want female driving instructors.
Yes.
And when I first started, I was the only female driving instructor within that branch of the school that I was working with. It didn't stay that way for very long, because it was very much was changing in that respect. But yeah, they come to me because I don't shout. They may have come from another driving instructor who's perhaps done something that they're not happy with, perhaps behaved in not an appropriate way, and they weren't happy with. And I always say that I am I give you patient, considerate instruction, in whatever that instruction means. I can deal with nervous students, and I'm completely patient. I've never ever really lost my temper with anybody, with anything that they're doing. But I'm also a bit of a control freak. I like to be in control.
Well, I think, Barbara,
what normal is for me is to transfer the responsibility for their learning and for their driving from me, from their very first lesson, to them, thereby giving them their freedom.
And I think the fact that you're saying you like to be in control, that's exactly the kind of driving instructor that I would want, Barbara, to know that you are in the driving seat and you are in control. Can you just share with our listeners just a little bit more in detail about the product and the service that you provide?
Well, yes, indeed. The product is obviously learning to drive and driving lessons. And I give driving lessons in and around Watford in Hertfordshire. I don't do driving lessons. Well, I don't particularly wish to do driving lessons around my home, which is in Kent. So I drive up there on the days that I choose to work. And I only do manual. I don't do automatic at this moment in time.
I love the manual.
So it's yes. Although, I'm looking forward. I'm thinking, well, do I want to be teaching automatic? Should I be teaching automatic? But at the moment, it's manual. I give hourly driving lessons, hour long. I'll put my teeth in as well. Hour long driving lessons, sometimes an hour and a half. Now, a lot of people, say, well, do I do 2 hours? Not normally. I would do a 2 hour lesson, but in the times that I have and the days that I do, I can't usually fit a 2 hour lesson in. It would reduce the number of students that I could help. So I will do an hour and a half. That's usually a first lesson because we have an assessment, we have a lot of paperwork to do, and they will get to drive in their first lesson. So
Which
I would always say,
very exciting.
Not something that they always, the students always think they're going to do. They don't think they're going to drive in that first lesson.
I remember it very well, Barbara. It's very scary, and I didn't go very far. And
oh no, you don't go very far, but it's you are sitting in that driving seat,
yes,
and you do drive.
Yes.
As long as you do exactly what I say, you will drive, and you will move the car, and you become a driver. And that's it. In your first lesson, you become a driver.
Yes, and it takes a while for it all to get into that subconscious mind where you're doing it naturally. Yes. But I really, really do admire what you are doing for people, Barbara. I love that it's your passion, you're helping others, and that you can actually hear the passion that you have about it. Now, I know you must have lots and lots of success stories. Can you just give me one that really stands out in your mind?
Well, the one that stands out and has stood out for over 20 years was my very, very first student that I went to take, very first lesson, the 68-year-old lady, because she persisted. She never missed a lesson unless she was away on holiday or I was away on holiday or something. She never missed a lesson for 2 years. And although she had to take, I think it was her 12th test or so that she actually passed, I always swore to myself that I would tell her that she was my very first student after she passed her test, which I did. And when she finally passed her test, because she knew she could drive before that, but she just kept failing. But, when you're 68, you've not been used to doing exams or tests in your life for a long, long time. So it's a struggle to actually get test ready and to actually do that thing. So yes, she I think was my first real success that I really kind of sort of thought, yes. There were other two students that passed, but they didn't have the same struggle. And one other student that I can.
I bet you were sad though to let her go, weren't you, Barbara? After 2 years of working with someone.
Well, you become friends almost.
Yes.
I still have to be professional, obviously. But yes, you can build up odd friendships with people and you get to know them. And to that end, there was there's one other student. She hasn't passed her test yet, but she started with me a little while back. And her first lesson, she was very inclined to panic. And she would panic at the drop of a hat. You say, put your foot down on the clutch, and she'd panic because she couldn't put the foot down on the clutch, or she couldn't lift the clutch slowly enough, or whatever it was. And she'd panic, and she'd have a complete panic attack and say, I can't do this, I want to go home, Well, with some careful handling, I shall say, but not getting uptight with her, getting her to focus, getting her to concentrate, look at me, we're going to do this, you can do such and such, you and so on. Within 3 lessons, her panic attacks had stopped. And so, although she hasn't passed her test yet, she's not far off doing that. She doesn't panic anymore, and she's really matured dramatically in the 6 to 9 months that I've known her. But those first 3 lessons, they were a challenge because we had to keep her focused and so on. But, it stopped her panicking, and she's now going on to do other things that, a year ago she would have panicked at. So that's a success story in itself.
I love a success story, Barbara, and like you say, that's life-changing, that someone has given her the confidence and given her the patience, because sometimes driving instructors might not be as patient as they should be, and you have taken all that stress and anxiety away from her. I just love a success story.
It can be confusing because, students will always throw up strange behaviours. They're all different. And it can be confusing to know how to deal with them. So you really have to be extremely patient and calm, and to focus their attention so that they can work through the problems that they're facing. But it's not necessarily a success for me, but it was a success for her.
It was a success for both of you. That's what I say, Barbara. Barbara, I have really enjoyed learning about you, your business, your stories. I've really enjoyed listening to them. How can our listeners connect with you? How is the best way, if there's someone out there in your area that would like your service, or they want to reach out about your book, what is the best way for people to contact you?
Well, they can contact me. They can put a message on my Facebook page. I do have a driving school Facebook page, through which they could message me, or they can message me via my email address, which you have and will distribute.
I will definitely make sure that people can get their hands on your Facebook page and your email address. But feel free to tell us your email address if you would like, Barbara.
Yes, that's fine. At the moment, it's just my email address. I really ought to get a professional one, but it's just davisbarbarajean@gmail.com.
Say that once more for our listeners.
Yep. davisbarbarajean@gmail.com.
Perfect. I will make sure that is easy access for people to grab their hands on it. Also, your Facebook business page as well. Barbara, thank you so much for being a guest on the Brilliance Business Show.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been my pleasure. You have been listening to the Brilliance Business Show. Conversations with leading experts in business.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.